Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked John Castaneda to defeat Daniel Santos. And I'm here to talk about Roosevelt Roberts versus Mateusz Rebecki. Mateusz Rebecki is 18-1 as a pro, 31 years old, and he's given up 7 inches of height and 7 inches of reach to 29-year-old Roberts, who is 12-3 as a pro, and taking this fight on very short notice, a week or so. Roosevelt Roberts, I think was meant to be back in the UFC. He was on the recent Ultimate Fighter season, and he lost in the semifinals to Austin Hubbard in a fight that was pretty fucking dreadful. I mean, it was awful. But he lost a tight decision there. That's how he was eliminated. His other 3 losses that he's got all come in the UFC, though. He's got one by knockout, one by submission, one by decision. Vince Pichel beat him by decision. He was able to take round 1 from Vince Pichel, but then he fell off down the stretch, and Vince was able to outpoint him. Vince Pichel, he's a striker and a grappler as well. He was able to ground Roosevelt Roberts and take the fight from him by neutralizing him on the ground. Jim Miller was the guy that armbarred him, that submitted him. He got it done with an armbar. Jim Miller got him down, advanced on him, and then when Roosevelt Roberts turned into him, Jim Miller cinched up an armbar from the guard and forced the tap. And Ignacio Bahamondes is the guy to finish him with strikes, and that was a knockout in round 3 with a spinning wheel kick. I think I actually got the kick right there. I think it was a wheel kick, but either way, it was fucking beautiful, and on the other end of things, it was deadly. Really tough loss for Roosevelt Roberts. But he's a guy who, before those losses, had shown a lot of promise, and still has shown a lot of promise. I know he had everybody's respect in the Ultimate Fighter house. I heard some of the guys, maybe even on the show it was, talking about how they thought he was the best guy in the room. But he's shown a lot of vulnerabilities, Roosevelt Roberts, that take away from some of the prettier memories of him taking a decision from Alexander Yakovlev. That was a very impressive win for him. Steamrolling Brock Weaver, beating Thomas Gifford. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Kevin Kroom, who did get a guillotine choke victory over Roosevelt Roberts, but then tested positive for cheating on his fucking best friend's wife or something. I don't know. I forget what happened there, what came up in the test. But he did club him and sub him. He hit him, knocked him down, and choked him out. So even though that loss never happened on paper, just know that I'm aware it happened, and it's another major strike against his durability. Strike against the submission defense and against the chin. But that was some years ago. Now he's been healthier, picking up victories, and again the loss on the Ultimate Fighter, but regathering himself. He's still only 29 years old, and I'd like to see Roosevelt Roberts make something happen, but here I don't think he's going to be able to, because this guy Rebecki's a fucking monster. I think this guy would be a fucking monster against Roosevelt Roberts on a full camp, but here on a week's notice, 2 weeks notice, I'm not expecting much from Roosevelt Roberts. I think I expect him to get finished, to be honest. Rebecki, he's got 18 wins, 15 of them via finish, 9 via knockout, 6 via submission, and just 3 decisions. His 1 loss is by knockout. He was knocked out to Paweł Kielek, the guy I mentioned a few videos ago, the Benoit Saint-Denis video. But he knocked out Rebecki, just turned the tides on him and ground and pounded him, and he was knocked unconscious in that loss. So that happened, but still, that was a pivotal loss for him because he was getting a little too confident on the ground. I remember mentioning this in my previous video that I made about him. I believe he had 3 consecutive leg lock victories and then that knockout loss on the ground. And since then, he's kind of gotten away from the leg locks, and he's probably more inclined to be a top game fighter anyway. Just looking at him, he looks like a fucking Ninja Turtle. But Rebecki, yeah, he's developed a really good striking game as well. 9 TKOs. We saw him get who the hell did he get out of there? Luik Rajabov out of there with a TKO in round 2, and he looked phenomenal in that fight. Leg kicks just were the story of that one for him. He looked really, really sharp there, and in the end, got himself a beautiful stoppage victory. And that was after a lackluster debut against Nick Fiore when he won a decision. But the Nick Fiore guy, I still don't know exactly what to make of him because he hasn't had too many fights. But Mateusz Rebecki is the pick to win this fight. I think Roosevelt Roberts has too many holes, and I think Rebecki is more than equipped to exploit those holes athletically and technically. And again, if things degenerate into any sort of a real fight here, then Rebecki is the guy who's had a full camp behind him, whereas Roosevelt Roberts is the guy taking this fight on short notice and a guy who has faded at least once against Vince Pichel. So Rebecki is the pick, and I think it will lead to a finish, and all my bets are on Roosevelt Roberts. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.